Hello! Welcome to the Flute 360 podcast, where we incorporate a panoramic view of flute-related topics. I am your host, Heidi K. Begay, and this is episode 144, an interview with Carolyn Nussbaum, the owner of the Carolyn Nussbaum Music Company.
Hello, flute lovers and Flute 360 fans. It's Adam Workman from Flutistry. You might know us from our concert and masterclass live streams, or our famous selfies. And what about our iconic water bottles? Or maybe we've helped you with instrument trials or your repair needs on the road or at our home in Boston. Flutistry helps flutists across the globe sound their best from our home in the flute-making capital of the world. Whether you are looking for a flute, piccolo, alto, or bass at any level, or repair services, sheet music, or accessories, Flutistry is here to support you and your artistic goals. This flute geek with experience in performance, repair, and flute making started Flutistry, literally flute and artistry, because I believe a flute dealer should be the artist advocate with every product or service we provide, especially in the flute search process. Now, 10 years later, we're here talking with Heidi about new tools and ways that Flutistry is supporting flutists like you at every stage of your artistic evolution. Stay tuned for our episode and be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and visit us online at flutistry.com. Stay safe and play on.
Hi, Carolyn.
Talk about perfect timing. I'm so impressed by you.
Oh, you're sweet.
How are you? How was your weekend?
Oh, it was good. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Yeah. How have you been since this whole pandemic and everything? I saw you once in the shop when I picked up my flute, but we haven't been able to catch up since then.
Yeah, I know. And I miss you. And I miss all my customers that come in that are, really my friends. That's what this is. That's what life is, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you're right. That's one thing that I was thinking about going into, this talk and everything. I thought, oh my goodness, this is more for me than for anyone else. I'm being a little selfish because, yes, this is great information that's going to be shared and everyone's going to learn. But I get to sit down with my friend, you, and somebody I've known since 2009 and actually get to be a little selfish and talk with you without distractions.
Yeah, it's really kind of nice. I have my phone on Do Not Disturb. I have my office door closed. I get to have a conversation without distraction. Seems like what a blessing. Sometimes we don't really get that with so many things bombarding us all the time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And especially since we have known each other for a while, it's been these interactions of flute shop events, right? It's like, oh, I'm coming in with my student to try a flute in your trial room, or it's me seeing you at Team EA, or I'm passing through with my stuff, but I don't actually get to sit down and hear, I get to hear your voice, here and there at the festivals and things like that, but you're so busy. You're running the booth or your shop, and for me to actually get to sit down and pick your brain and talk to you, I just feel so privileged.
Oh my gosh, you're so sweet. That makes me feel so special. Heidi, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, completely.
From the day we met, I have so much respect for you and everything that you do, and your students love you, and I can see why, because you're just lovely, and your students are amazing. I hear them play. I hear how they grow over the years and really develop into not just great flutists, but great people, because you're not just teaching them flute, you're teaching them life and life lessons, and I can see that coming from them and how much they like you and the parents like you and how involved you are with your students. So I know this isn't an interview about you, but I think you should know that because I think you're a great teacher and a great human being. And I think you're a blessing to those students and people that you get to interact with, as well as the people that you're probably interviewing. I think they're lucky to be able to be in part of your life.
Oh my goodness, you're way too kind. Yeah. Okay. Well, we can end the conversation there. No, I really do. I can't wait for our talk, but that just gave me goosebumps and chills, and I'm going to hold that very sweet sentiment for years to come.
Oh, thanks. Well, it was all come from the heart because it's all true.
Oh, and I feel the same way about you. When I do get to interact with you, whether on a one-on-one basis or from afar, and I get to watch you run your shop or run your booth at the convention or see the different projects that you are engaged in, I'm always amazed by your entrepreneurial skills and how you approach those different projects and people too. Just how you are so giving to our community, right? With Terry Sanchez's books and you displaying those so beautifully, or displaying the Wind Defender and supporting the Dooleys in that way. It's so cool to see how your creative mind unfolds into your business and helps others around you too.
Well, I appreciate that. I love what I do. I fell in love with the flute, and I am one of the lucky people that get to work with flute every day, all day. And I did. I found my passion and I have followed it.
Yeah, you can definitely see that. So, first and foremost, thank you so much for carving that time out for us. People are going to be blown away by what you have to offer. And yeah, so for those who may not know you, would you like to share a little bit about yourself and your musical background?
Sure. So where to start? Well, I started flute, didn't even know what a flute was until one day when my sister came home. I have an older sister and an older brother, but my older sister came home and said to my mom she wanted to play flute. And anything my sister wanted to do, of course, I wanted to do. So I was like, well, I want to play flute too. And my mother at the time probably just ignored me because that's what you do to the little ones. I love my mother, don't get me wrong. And many people who've been to my shop and trade shows and that kind of stuff all know my mom because she has worked the cash register for 15 years now. So many of you all know my mom, Shirley. But anyway, digressing back. My sister wasn't allowed to play flute because she already had too many activities going on in her life. And I pursued and said, Mom, I really want to play flute, because then I got to do something my sister wasn't allowed to do. And that was even better, right? I still didn't even know what a flute was, but I wanted to play it. So then we went, and my mother's like, fine, we'll get you a flute we'll rent it for 3 months. It'll be out of your system, like the billion other things I've done, and it'll go on. So fast forward, I'm then in middle school band. My band director in middle school was awesome. His name was Dan Black. His name still is Dan Black, but he's no longer my middle school band director. And then I went on to Rick Lambert, band director, a high school band director, who's many people in Texas, if you're involved in Texas band and marching band, would know Rick Lambert because he's an incredible band director, really involved in TMEA and that kind of stuff. So I was lucky to be under his band in the 80s. I'm not going to discuss my age, but the late 80s, I was in his band. And then I left a year early out of high school to go to North Carolina School of the Arts and studied under Phil Dunnigan. So I grew up in El Paso, Texas. I moved from El Paso to Winston-Salem, North Carolina when I was barely 16, and graduated high school studying under Phil Dunnigan at North Carolina School of the Arts. Then I went to 1 year, University of North Carolina, Greensboro, and studied flute under Deborah Egevist. And she was wonderful, and I learned a ton from her as well. Then I left North Carolina and went back to Texas because I was in the middle of my freshman year. I was having these terrible migraine headaches and finally linked it to TMJ. And so I moved to Houston because my brother was in dental school at the time in Houston, and moved there. My uncle was an oral surgeon in Houston. And so I became a project of how to fix TMJ and still allow somebody to be able to play the flute, because I wasn't going to give up flute for 6 months or whatever to have them break my jaw and reset it. That was non-optional. So I moved to Houston, became their project, and studied under the Houston Symphony player Byron Hester, who taught at the University of Houston. And I got 2 degrees under him at the University of Houston, and then moved on to study under Jackie Hofto at University of North Texas, which then she left halfway through my master's degree, and I got to study with Kathy Chastain, who was doing sabbatical at the time at University of North Texas. So really an incredible list of teachers I got to study under, and I learned so much from all of them. And then at the end of my master's degree, I was doing a thesis, and my thesis ended up being on the development of the modern flute and the physical changes from Bohm to present, and present not being now, obviously, the early 90s. Lots of stuff has happened since then. But that was what my thesis was on. Ironically, I had no plan of getting into flute repair when I started that thesis, or owning my own shop or any of that kind of stuff. So that was my background, and that's what I did.
Wow.
That was it. That's my musical background of flute playing.
What a rich history. And all of those teachers just sound like you hold such a special place in your heart for them and those lessons.
They taught me a lot. They taught me the importance of not just being a flute player, but they also taught me life skills, how to work well with others. Working in chamber groups or orchestral groups is a lot about just working in life in general and being around people and that type of stuff. So kind of like what I mentioned about what you do for your teachers, I meet a lot of teachers, and I see some teachers that are just teaching flute and that's all they talk about. And then I see teachers that teach life and flute as being part of their life. So I think I got a lot of that from a lot of my teachers, and I'm very lucky for that.
That's amazing. And I did not know about the TMJ factor.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh my goodness. I know that this is completely, I don't want to go down a different rabbit hole here, but what was the biggest takeaway from that season of your life?
So because I was having such terrible headaches from my TMJ, they put me in braces in my early 20s. So I had braces on to change how my bite was so that I would stop having the TMJ that would stop the migraines. So it was really great. It helped me when I was teaching a lot and I had a lot of students, and most of your students in general get braces on at the beginning of their flute playing or within 2 or 3 years of their flute playing. And they're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And it taught me that actually getting braces sometimes can be a blessing as a flute player. Mm-hmm. And I experienced it in college and having to learn all those excerpts and everything and dealing with, when you get your braces tightened and it hurts, and then getting the braces on and having to relearn how to play and then getting your braces off. Learning that more in my early adult or emerging adulthood really helped me understand more of what these kids are going through that I see a lot of.
Yeah.
For them to grasp what's going on, and that getting braces is actually a great thing, not just because they're going to get their teeth and their smile be beautiful and their bite and help with any kind of problems that not having the straightened teeth like I experienced helps, but it helps as a flute player. Mm-hmm. And so I can help some of those people. So it's really helped me on many different levels, not just helping me with my headaches and that type of stuff.
Yeah. And you definitely have to, there's this factor of patience, being, patient through the process and, dealing with a health issue and not, finding necessarily perhaps a solution right away, but having to be adaptable and flexible and learning as you go. And life can be a great teacher.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, well, thank you for being so candid about that TMJ factor, because there are a lot of musicians out there who suffer silently with, performance-related injuries. And a lot of times these things don't come to light because we're afraid of what others may think.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you wrapped up beautifully your musical background, and you hinted at the flute repair element. Can you talk about that? And I'm guessing, I don't want to assume, because I know assumption can be dangerous, but I'm assuming then your flute repair background led you into your flute shop?
Yeah, it did, actually. I did not have the 5-year business plan or any of that kind of stuff to open up a business, and had no idea this is what was going to happen. And it just kind of developed in no basic plan of my own. When I was finishing up my master's degree and had to do that final master's recital, my flute wasn't playing quite right as I was prepping for it, a couple months back before the recital was. And I was recommended to send my flute off to be repaired, which a lot of people do. So I did that, and I got my flute back, and it wasn't playing very well. So I sent it back, and this went back and forth. And this is, before the internet was very popular, and we didn't have cell phones that we would just, pick up and call. Things were back then, AOL, you'd hop on your computer and AOL would go, and they would charge you by the minute to send an email and that type of stuff. And we're going back, to like dinosaur times. So I would send my flute off, and I got it back. And this went back and forth with the repair person that I was sending it to. And they finally told me that it must be me, that I don't know how to play the flute and I should really learn to play the flute. So I was like, okay, I get that. So everybody in the flute department at the time, I'd walk up, I go, can you play my flute? Can you tell me if there's something wrong? Is it me? How am I missing this? And people would be like, no, your flute's not playing right. Something's wrong. So I was like, okay. So I didn't know where else to turn. And I was talking to my dad, who said to me, what do you mean you're mailing your flute off to be repaired? Why wouldn't you fix it yourself? Don't you know how to fix your flute yourself? If you drove in the Indy 500 and your car broke down, you would have to know how to fix that. You should know how to fix your flute. What if you were walking out in the middle of a symphony performance and the symphony's about to start and your flute breaks? Shouldn't you know how to fix it? And this was just the typical way my dad's process was. I mean, when I was little and my blow dryer broke, we would go to the garage, take the blow dryer apart, fix it, put it back together, and I'd go on about my day. I think I had the same blow dryer for over 20 years. So that's just how we functioned in my house growing up. So from there, I was like, oh, I guess I need to learn flute repair. Not realizing at the time that, they're Indy 500 auto drivers. They have a pit crew that does all that for them, right?
Yeah.
Didn't put two and two together at the time when my dad was saying that. So I then, things kind of fall where they fall. And I ended up learning flute repair and commuting back and forth to New York and then to New Hampshire. And I worked with Chris McKenna for a while. And he really helped me learn a bunch of flute repair. I worked with Jeff Weissman for a bit, learning flute repair. And one thing led to another. So I could really learn it to be able to work on my own instrument. And now I have since graduated with my master's degree, and I was teaching full-time private lessons, going to all the different schools and that kind of stuff. And I was doing other odd jobs at the time as well, because that's what we do as musicians and private lesson teachers is, we hold a lot of different jobs. So I was also I was managing a shoe repair store. So I could, replace the soles of your shoes and that type of thing. I was at the chiropractor. And my chiropractor actually, come to find out, he was a drummer, and I had been in a band with him the previous year. So left the chiropractor, and a week later, my chiropractor calls me and says, hey, I have this other patient who happens to play the flute, and he was saying that his flute wasn't playing right. Would you mind if I gave him your number? Because I know you're doing some flute repair, that you've learned how to fix your own flute. Maybe you could help this guy. So I'm like, sure, give him my number. So I get this phone call. This guy calls me. His name's Harvey. And I was like, yeah, come by my apartment. No big deal. So I open up the door, and it's Harvey Boatwright, who at the time was the second chair flutist of the Dallas Symphony. And I was like, oh, okay. So come on in, and I will do whatever I can do on the flute. What I know, if I fix it, I fix it. If I don't, I don't. Long story short, I ended up fixing his flute the way he liked it. He was super happy. He then let the other symphony players know. And word got out that I was now doing this flute repair. I was also helping, friends that I went to college with. They had students as well now, and they were starting to send their students to me to get flute repair done. Sir James Galway was then performing at the DSO, and Harvey Boatwright called me up and said, hey, Sir James is here. His flute's not playing quite right. I'm bringing him by your apartment. So I'm like, okay. And so then here, within a few months, I have Sir James Galway sitting on my couch in my one-bedroom apartment. So I've now started doing some flute repair in my apartment while teaching and doing various other odd jobs around town, to pay my rent and that type of stuff. So one of my friends, who was also a private lesson teacher, says to me, I really like you doing all the repairs for my students, but a lot of their flutes that they buy come with warranties. If you could do their warranty work, it would be great. So if they could buy the flute from you, then you could do the warranty work, and we wouldn't have to be, trying to figure out how to make it all work. So I ended up starting to sell some flutes and opened up my first shop in 1996. So I started doing flute repair in 94, opened up my first shop, my official shop in 96. And started doing flute repair and selling some flutes there. And then they'd be like, oh, if I could just get my sheet music from you too, it would be so much easier. So then I started selling some sheet music that people wanted, and it turned into a flute shop.
Wow.
Now it started out my apartment, and then I went to like a 1,000 to 1,200 square foot shop. Then I was there. I enlarged that shop, started to get some employees. My employees were flute players. I'd have people that would come in and be like, oh my God, I love here. I wish I could work here. I'd be like, oh, okay. Hey, why don't you come work here? So And I love it being able to employ flutists because it's a win-win. They get a job and I have somebody who knows about flute. So it's really fabulous. Then after the 10 years being in that location down in Dallas, I moved up to my shop where I am now in Plano. And we then enlarged the shop. Now we're a little over 8,000 square feet of store with 20,000 titles of sheet music and a gajillion flutes and head joints and piccolos and alto flutes and all that stuff. And I have a repair team and a sales team. And I love what I do. And that's how my store came about.
Oh my gosh. That is all amazing, Carolyn. I'm over here with goosebumps.
Oh, you're so sweet. It's like I said, I had no 5-year business plan. I just do what I do because I love it. And I love the people I work with and I love my customers and I try to do right by them. And that's what I do. And I love it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. There are so many gold nuggets from that story. I wish I could tap into each one, but I know I would be here forever and I'm not about to do that to you. But the thing I want to highlight is, and these lessons can be applied to any stage in life. Whether you're a student or a semi-professional or a professional, we can all learn from these gold nuggets that Carolyn just laid out so beautifully. And the one thing that really struck me was this willingness to notice these opportunities. What I'm hearing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is the shop almost kind of landed in your lap. And not to say that, blood, sweat, and tears didn't go into it, because I know it did. You just proved it. But this opportunity was there, and you took the bull by the horns, and you said, oh, this is mine. And you ran with it, and look at this beautiful career that you carved out for yourself.
So, it's interesting. I don't think of it that way because it wasn't like I felt like something landed in my lap. It's just I do the next thing that comes in. So, somebody called me up and said, oh my gosh, my flute's not playing. And I know you were doing that on a flute. Can you help me? Of course, I want to help. I want to help somebody. I want to help make their lives better, make their lives easier. If there's something I can do for them, I want to do that. And to me, that's what I was doing. And that's what I'm still doing.
No, I love that. And just following those opportunities as they unfold.
Exactly. So, just over this pandemic, there was a customer who called me up and she said, my piccolo's not playing. This is what I've got going on. I can't come into the store. And I was like, well, wait a minute, tell me where you are. And she explained to me where she was. I was like, okay, there's a Starbucks on this corner right here. I'll meet you in the parking lot. I have my mask on. I'll have my gloves on. Give me your piccolo. I'll sterilize it. I'll use the UV lights and all that stuff. Let me fix it. Because I know she had to do an audition for Allstate, which is really big here in Texas. And she was totally freaking out. So I'm like, no big deal. We'll get it taken care of. And then, you'll stay with me. I'll do it in the car. I'll fix it. I'll sterilize everything. And, then you go and you do whatever sterilization you want to do to make sure you're safe. And we'll get it done and fixed. And you'll be able to play it because that's what needs to be done. And so that's what we did.
Wow. And from your living room, right, with the DSO principal player all the way to Sir Galway to then piccolo repair in a parking lot. That's just amazing to me.
Yeah, it's just what I do. It's the way my brain functions, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, I'll back up one point that I do want to put out there is that one of the reasons why I was inspired to do this series was, you go and you pull up to your digital driveway, and you see the fancy Carolyn Nussbaum title and sign on the outside of your door, right? And you walk into this glorious, I think you said, 8,000?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, square foot. And you see all the beautiful displays, the music, the flutes, and you're like, oh, yeah. And not that we take it for granted. It's just, oh, there's a store. Of course, it's got the fancy Carolyn Nussbaum title to it. But we forget sometimes all of the blood, sweat, and tears that went into establishing that store and what it meant to get it up and running, and not only up and running, but being functioning and successful. And there are so many lessons in there that I'm sure you've learned along the way. But I wanted to highlight you and the different entrepreneurs to showcase, this didn't just happen overnight. There were a lot of steps from 1996, 1998, all the way till now. And yeah, I just wanted to say that because I felt that was on my heart.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It has been a lot of sweat if I look back at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have been accused of being a workaholic. There's many times that I've worked over all these years. Up until the pandemic, I worked pretty much every Saturday, including, Monday through Friday, and many Sundays if I was traveling to trade shows. So I work all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not recommending for other people to work all the time. Definitely, I think a work-life balance would be healthy if I were to recommend that for others, do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm here on Saturdays and Sundays. Up until the pandemic, we started a rotation for Saturdays, and my staff was like, Carolyn, you need to be able to have a day off too. And my staff was super supportive, and they were like, yeah, you don't have to be here every Saturday. So it's been kind of nice. My kids are like, oh, Mom, you're here like 2 days in a row. We've never had you 2 days in a row, which is very true. My kids did not have me, on the weekends. They'd have me on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been different, but it's what I know and what I do.
Yeah. Amazing. So you've highlighted, one special feature of your shop, and that is your staff. Would you like to elaborate more on that? Or do you want to talk about other aspects that make your shop so special?
I could do both because I'm not going to not talk about my staff. I have a great staff. My staff has, like any place else, has changed over the years, but they're still family. Even people that don't still work here and they've moved on to other careers or various other things, we still keep in touch. And I'm with these people that are my employees. I don't think of them as employees. I think of them as my peers. We are a family. I'm with them more than I'm with my own family. I'm here, my waking hours, I'm here with, and you can't even see my hand gestures because I'm doing these huge hand gestures about my staff. So I'm with my staff and we're all together, 8 hours a day on average. Who's at home 8 hours a day with their family?
True.
We're not. So like Chelsea, who's the head of my repair department, she's the head of repair. She's been here since 2009. Mary has been here. She's my instrument manager, and I don't want to leave anybody out. So I'm not going to sit here and list everybody who's here, but they're listed on my website and I love them all. Mary has been here since the week before I delivered my son, who's going to turn 17. So Mary has been here a little over 17 years. So it's, we're in it as a team. We're all, even though it's my name on the door, because that's kind of what everybody did back then, is people found out about me because they would, there used to be this thing called the phone book.
What?
Don't know about a phone book, but it's called the Carolyn Nussbaum Music Company because people would look me up in the phone book to find my phone number under Carolyn Nussbaum. And so that's why it has the name Carolyn Nussbaum Music Company, because that's how people would find me, through my phone number and my phone book. So my staff is great. And I think they feel that they're part of a family too. And if they ever need anything, they know that they can come to any of us here to help them. The other part of your question was, remind me, what's special about my company?
Yes.
Okay, so my company is just fun. We love what we do. Flutes are great. Oh my gosh, flutes are great. I am known to be a very, very, very picky person. I've had customers tell me they love for me to work on their flute, but they can't imagine going out to dinner with me because I probably never order off the menu, which is very true. So, but I'm so picky about things being just right and things feeling correctly with flute repair that kind of carries over into my shop. So I like things to be right. I like things to be the way people want them. Nobody is perfect. Things can happen, mistakes can happen. The opportunity to make them right is what's so important. That's what we do here. We try to make things better for people. Our shop is about customer service. If there's something we can't do, we will let the customer know. It's not just saying we can't do it. Let me find out who can do that for you, or know everything about our product. So if there's something we don't know, we can go find it. If there's a piece of sheet music that you can't find, and we don't already have it in our inventory, we're going to take the extra steps to go find it. Find out, is it published? Has it been discontinued? Can we get a copy of it for you? How can we go do that? You have some unusual flute that you've never heard of, that you found in your aunt's closet, and it could be some fabulous thing you have no idea. Let me research it. Let me find out what it is. We want to find all of that information out. And my staff is that way too. They want to be able to help people. And that's really what we are. We're a customer service business. We are here to help customers find their instrument, find their perfect flute, just find the music they want to be able to play with their friends.
Yeah, I love all of that. And you are so right that I can definitely see that family feel in your shop. I have known you in the shop for some time, since 2009, Carolyn. We're not getting older at all.
No, we're not. We're not allowed to get any older.
No, but, since then and up until now, you're right. There is this sense of family, and I hadn't thought of that aspect coming into the talk, but I'm making that connection because it is true. Like, if you're not picking up the phone and I don't hear your voice, I know exactly to say, oh, can I talk to Chelsea? Oh, can I talk to Mary? Oh, can I talk to Bryce and Carol? I mean, I can rattle off 4, 5, 6 names, because
Sure.
I know these people, and you make it very easy, and they make it easy for the customer or that, flute friend to approach everyone in your store. And that is one feature that keeps me coming back and keeps me super comfortable, and just knowing that I am amongst friends, and not just friends, but friends who know what they're doing. And everyone has so much talent and skill sets to bring to the table, and having that peace of mind is amazing.
That is so great to hear. That reminds me why we do what we do here, because that's what we want to do. Because, we're only given so many days on this planet, right?
Yeah.
And what is the end goal in that is to love life and love what you do and be around people you want to be around.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do things you don't want to do. And my thing is, as long as I'm doing 80+% of my day is stuff I love to do and want to do, then I'm successful, right? There's always a part of a business or part of life that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
But it has to be done, like cleaning your house.
Yeah.
Right? Not my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
I'll do the dishes all day long, but having to sweep the floor and that kind of, but it has to be done. So as long as that's that 20% or less, I'm right there. And the words you just gave me made me so happy, because that means what I'm doing is affecting other people and making their lives better.
I love that. Yeah. And you're right. The older I get, the more I notice me saying no to more things, because I ask myself the same question that you just laid out. Would that bring me fulfillment? Would I be satisfied? Would that align with, the goals in my life? Would I find that enjoyable? Like, quite frankly, not everything or everyone should work together. And sometimes you can't avoid it, but sometimes you can. And it's like, no, actually, I don't want to do that, because I would not find satisfaction or enjoyment in that. So I'm not going to choose to say yes. Yeah, you're right. It's all about, embracing those moments and those people in your life and making the most out of those beautiful opportunities.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. I don't know if that's what this interview was supposed to be about, but that's what it turned into.
Exactly. And that just means that I've done my job. Here we have, a list of these questions to think about in advance and, to wrap our minds around. But if the conversation goes down another path, then, let it happen, because that's where the magic happens.
Right. So that, it made me think about, I can't remember the woman's name, and I've only watched like a half an episode of that. You look at this item, does it bring you joy? And you're supposed to decide, if it doesn't bring you joy, you're supposed to get rid of it, right? It's like cleaning out clutter or something like that. Whoever you are that does that show, that part is like, I think that was the goal of that show.
Yeah.
And just tied it into this. And I think that's really kind of adorable.
I love that. Oh, shoot. So, since you have been running the Carolyn Nussbaum Music Store since 1996, what is the most, if you can choose, what is the most prominent lesson that you've learned while managing your store?
Okay, that's a tough one. So I was supposed to think of these kinds of things before, and I didn't really. Okay, so there's two things, really. I think listening to what people want and listening to what people need, and going after the knowledge to make it happen. So I think knowledge is important. Not to just accept what you already know, but to listen to what is around you and what your customer is saying or your peers, employees, friends are saying, and to grow from that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh. So what I'm hearing is taking the earmuffs off of your ears and really listening to what that person is saying in the sense of like pain points, like hearing, oh, this is my problem, and then you being the creative and finding a solution to their problem.
Right. And so when I present it in relations to being a store owner and managing my store, it's for my customers. What are my customers' needs and can I meet those needs? For my employees, what are my employees' needs and how can I help my employees fill their needs as their own individual persons, as well as them facilitating a customer, right? So it's multi-leveled.
Okay.
So in order to be able to help the employee in turn and be able to help the customer, or being able to know how to keep communication open and transparency to be able to communicate properly so that I understand what the customer needs. I understand what one of my employees might need or what I might need from one of my employees. Am I communicating well in a positive way?
Yeah.
Right. And that can be applied to teaching, just life in general, how to speak to somebody. So over the years, I have learned, and I'm still learning, constantly learning, that the old saying, you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar kind of thing. So, life is short. Find a great way I'm all about win-win situations.
Okay.
If it's a win for my customer, then it's a win for us. We get a win-win. When we talk about, I talk about consignment flutes with people because we consign instruments here as well. So it becomes a win-win. So I'm selling a flute for one customer. I'm finding the same flute then goes to another customer, and then I get to help sell the flute. So it's a win for me. It's a win for the seller. It's a win for the buyer, making sure that you're not taking advantage of either of them, keeping it balanced. So it becomes a win-win.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's a great example. I love that example because going back to that communication element, the most important part of communication is that listening aspect. Because I am a Mrs. Chatterbox a lot of times, I tend to forget that listening aspect, and how I resonate with that and how I can connect to what you just said that's a huge lesson that I have learned through podcasting. I need to listen and really hear what that person is saying in order to keep that conversation going, and for that guest or student or teacher or amateur to feel heard, right? And then I get to talk, and then I get to share, based on what they have expressed to me. And then when I do share, am I being articulate? Am I being concise with what I have to say in my own unique voice? And so that's how I'm connecting to what you just shared with us.
That was beautifully said. I add to that because what you just said was lovely about listening.
Amazing. So we are in the beginning of the new year. Thank goodness. Yeah. 2020 was a beast, man.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So as we're pressing into the new year, is there a particular event or whatnot coming up that you're looking forward to?
So there are a few different things that I'm looking forward to coming up. So there's a couple of things. While we're still in this pandemic, my husband decided that New Year's didn't really happen and we're going to celebrate it on June 1st.
Nice.
Going that by then right? Wishful thinking. By then, it'll really be the majority of it behind us, right? So when that happens and the world comes back to what the new normalcy will be, right? Going that the pandemic will be over. So looking that far forward. So I'm going to skip ahead for right now and discuss when the world can come back to where we don't have to be as social distanced and worrying about diseases and that type of thing that we're in right now with this pandemic. I'm looking forward to taking advantage of the shop that we have here and being able to use our multi-purpose room that we have. So when we enlarged our shop, we have 5 trial rooms. We have a very large showroom, half dedicated for instruments, the other half dedicated to the sheet music and accessories. And then we have a multi-purpose room, which is more like a performance hall with a baby grand piano. And before the pandemic, we started using that room to have soirees, which was actually started by a lovely gal named Claire Johnson, who taught at SMU for 35 plus years. She's just this fabulous, she's 90 years old. I mean, she's just this incredible flute teacher who would do soirees on Sundays in her own home. And we started doing them here in the shop where people could come in and perform. We have a baby grand piano and they could perform a solo, they could do a duet if they were preparing for an audition. Or one of the things we have found that once you've graduated, you don't necessarily have groups to play with. So many people want to be able to perform and want to be able to play, and they don't have a place to do that unless they're going to rent out a church and it costs them money and various things like that. And people want a place to play. So we've created this place to play that we're not doing right now because of the pandemic. And it's really great. So we would do that. We also do sight reading sessions. We would do flute choir sight reading sessions. We offered quintet, quartet, trio, duo, because we have all the sheet music here. And a lot of times you can't play before you buy, right?
Yep.
So we would offer our space for people to be able to come, look at the music, see if they like it, play through it, reading sessions, to be able to come do that. And I miss that. I miss hearing all the music in the store all the time. So I really look forward to that. I'm also looking forward to having Sir James Galway back in with Lady Jeannie, where they've done master classes and performances here. It's been fabulous. All of these have been so well received. And I try to do this to bring in community, which is one of the reasons why we enlarged the store, was to offer giving back to our community and bringing in these artists so that people can use it. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the master classes from people like Jennifer Grimm, which we had here a year ago. And it was just so fabulous. So that's the stuff I'm really looking forward to. I also look forward to going to trade shows again, to flute shows, because I miss being able to see all my colleagues and friends that I have all over the country that, like you said, I get to see you at TMEA, or I get to see you at the Texas Flute Festival, or the Seattle Flute Festival, or the Florida Association Convention. And there's, a gajillion of them all over the country. We used to do, 14 to 20 a year. And so I miss seeing all those people. I miss seeing my friends, my people that I, grew up with in college and that type of thing, that have now, are private lesson teachers and such all over the country. And I don't get to see them anymore. And, Zoom isn't quite the same. So I'm looking forward to that in the far, 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 when world comes back, when the world comes back and the pandemic is over. So that I'm looking forward to. Actually, coming up in a few weeks on January 25th, I'm going to touch base on this pandemic and what has happened to so many people. I watch, what people post on Facebook and Instagram, or what's up on the news. And so many musicians have suddenly out of a job, and they don't really necessarily have a backup plan, or living paycheck to paycheck, or student payment by student payment, when you get paid by your students lesson to lesson without a backup plan. And so I reached out to some people that I know, and reached out through some different connections through a guy named Richard Miller, who is a wealth finance advisor. So he's a financial advisor. And come January 25th, and people will be able to sign up for this. You'll get an email out. It's going to be posted on my website. It's a free Zoom class, and it's just financial advice for musicians on how to hopefully not get yourself in this position again, and a few guidelines. Just if you get 1 or 2 pointers or 5 pointers out of everything that he's going to talk about in this it's free. I want to be able to help my customers so they
Yeah.
don't feel strapped and stranded. And, it can help them with a backup plan. It can help them not have to be so financially strapped and that type of thing. So I'm really looking forward to that, to be able to help my customers out, because I've heard from so many customers and seen so many posts about that fear of,
Yep.
I mean, we have felt it in our industry as a small business. We're very lucky to still be in business, as, some of the other music companies we have seen have really, really struggled. And when this pandemic first hit, I called a staff meeting together and I said, here is our goal. Our goal is to, at the end of this, still be working here together as a team, have everybody still have their jobs. And before you leave today, just in case, the state closes us down, which did happen to, I think, the whole country at some point, be sure to take a roll of toilet paper with you.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want anyone to go without toilet paper. So,
Yeah.
back in March, we're like,
Yep.
don't forget to take your toilet paper before you leave work today. Thanks. So, I don't want to see my friends and my customers and my peers struggle
Yeah.
with that. So we're offering that. Go look for it January 25th in the evening. Sign up for the class. It'll be great. So
Yeah.
looking forward to that.
I am jotting that down right now. I kid you not. I am so going to be there. I'll be the first one to sign up. And I'm over here like, putting my hands up in the air, nodding my head like crazy and thinking, thank God. Yes, this is exactly what I've been preaching since the pandemic. Eric and I have been very blessed to have a digital business through our audio and video production company pre-COVID since 2015. And literally the lessons that we have learned from 2015 up until now, we know the ins and outs of being a digital entrepreneur. And so when COVID hit, I was on that same mission and that same mindset that you just laid out. I was like, okay, what can I do? I hate to see my music friends hurting financially because their gigs are dropped or their teaching, studio has dropped, and I can go on and on. And so I took a step back too and said, okay, what can I do? And then I started creating digital classes to help musicians, help them pivot, not necessarily into a whole new career or a whole new realm. If that's what they wanted to do, great. But just to have this pivot or this shift of hopefully a different mindset of seeing opportunities and creating something from nothing and finding those funds or finding monetary opportunities that you could bring in and create those multiple streams of income for, your survival and for you to thrive in a time that is bleak. And so hearing these opportunities being offered for free to our community is so needed right now. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart because these messages need to be out there, because when life gives you lemons, don't just make lemonade. Let's make lemon pound cake. Like,
Icing like Starbucks has on that lemon pound cake, because that's really good.
oh my gosh, the icing, yes. But, and we have to pivot. We have to learn how to adapt, or we need to learn how to be flexible. And yeah, this past year did not go as planned for any of us. I lost my full-time job in China. I was packing my bags and I was going to teach abroad at an international school. Yeah, and it stunk big time. But you have to have courage to be willing to reinvent yourself in some way. And so, yeah, I could go on, and that could be a whole nother episode, but I just have to highlight that because I completely 110% resonate with that on so many different levels.
Yeah. And I think it's so great that you did that, for your listeners and get the word out and offer those digital classes. I think that's so wonderful. And whatever we can do and however I can help you or help your listeners, please reach out to me. Have your listeners reach out to me through email, telephone, however you can get a hold of me. If there's something that I can do to help make your lives easier, make your lives better, something that I can do. And if you have a chance to, if you're hearing this podcast, before January 25th and you want to get in on this, to be able to hear how to get a suggestion that might work to help not live quite so hand to mouth is, what we're here to try to help.
Yeah. And Carolyn literally means it. If she's saying, call me at the shop and use me as a soundboard and pick my brain, she means it. And what a beautiful, wonderful brain to pick. Oh my goodness.
So
So we kind of already talked about entrepreneurial skills, but is there anything that you want to add to that conversation of, what skill sets somebody should acquire if they want to pursue an entrepreneurial path?
my suggestion, if you're looking to do something like that and do something on your own, is be open-minded. Find a niche of what is out there that you wish was out there that doesn't exist. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to find your own wheel. And how many times have you gone, oh, I wish I had this, or I wish somebody could do this. Why not be the person to do that? Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, exactly. Yes.
The other suggestion I have is be sure not to put all your eggs in one basket.
Hallelujah.
Like I had mentioned, a billion hours ago, of, that I manage a shoe repair store. There are so many, have a backup plan. And I joke a lot with my kids because they would say, what if you end up, not doing the flute shop anymore, Mom? And I was like, well, my backup plan is to be a barista at Starbucks because I drink a lot of coffee.
Yep.
I love the taste of coffee. I don't do it for the caffeine. You can take all the caffeine out. I just like that warm cup, right? And so then I was talking to a client who happens to be a barista and joking around. And I was like, how do you keep track of all those different drinks in your head and how you make them? And that's a job that if you stand there and watch a barista, it's a lot going on all at once, which to me looks like a ton of fun. But in all seriousness, a backup plan that is realistic of something that you would also enjoy, that you might split and maybe do one thing over here on the right side that you love to do and something way over here on the left side that you also love to do. And you could actually make them both work for you. As just going, okay, my only goal is to be the principal of the New York Phil, right?
Yeah.
Well, that is your goal and 75 billion other people's goal, and it's one chair.
Yeah.
So make sure that concept of being well-rounded, I think, is super important. I don't know if like my kids' generation really hears that anymore. I mean, I got a letter in the mail from the public school. I don't mean to digress, so I'll make it really short. That my daughter, who's in 8th grade right now, can pick out her career path and then focus that in high school of what she should do for the rest of her life.
No way.
And it's mind-boggling. I mean, I'm looking at going, okay, she's 14 years old. And you're already wanting to put her on a path of so inside one little box.
Yeah.
And I understand why they do that. Like, I can understand it. And part of me also feels, what a shame that they don't get a chance to taste test a little of everything. Yeah. And they do that for college now too. Like, you have to decide what your major is going to be.
Yeah.
Undeclared is not an option so much. Didn't you just go to college and you take a class in astronomy and you take a class in biophysics and then you decide which one you like better? Do that anymore. And it kind of saddens me because I think you should kind of experience a little bit more of that. I talked to so many people that did go to college, in the 80s, 90s for, let's say their major was mechanical engineering or hotel restaurant management. A lot of those people aren't actually in those fields at all. Yep. I had a friend that got her doctorate in opera, right? In voice, I guess. And I've lost track of her over the last 5 years, but for 20 years, she was the manager of a Hallmark store doing really, really well, right? Has a 401k, has the, health insurance plan, has all the stuff, actually enjoys what she does, has absolutely nothing to do with what she got her college degrees in, still gets to perform and sing in various things that she was in. But to be forced in that. And so many people end up not being in the career that they thought they were going to do when they were 14, 15, 16 years old. It's okay.
Yep.
So I guess that's entrepreneurship right there. I don't know how I got to that, but that's where I got.
No, it was amazing, especially at such a young age, like 14, 15, to kind of shove them into this one lane so early on in life. And they haven't gotten to experience life yet. I mean, they're not even driving a car. My goodness, like I still to this day, I mean, think back. And it was meant to be. So I'm not at all questioning this because this was how my life was supposed to pan out. But with, college, right after high school, I've always told this to Eric. I wished I would have had a year off between senior year of high school and freshman year of college to do a year of study abroad in Europe, or not study abroad, just backpack and hop around the different museums and sit down and have conversations with people, get a taste of life here or there, and then decide, oh my goodness, I'm really passionate about X, and you don't figure that out and you don't know that at 14. And so, yeah, exactly what you said, experience life. I love it.
Well, it is important to know that there's something more than whatever you pick when you're 16 years old. Yeah. And you're not stuck with that. You can change when you're 40. You can change when you're 50. You can change your career path.
Yeah, it's never too late.
It is never too late. But if you're not sure what you want to do and you like to do puzzles and tinker and that type of stuff, musical instrument repair is a good path.
Yeah.
For you performers out there that like to tinker and take things apart, there is definitely a need for that. And you still get to perform. So I'll throw that out there as well.
Cool. So in the last segment of this talk, I like to do a fun segment called Picks. Do you have a pick or multiple picks for the listener?
I do have multiple picks. I actually asked a couple of my staff members this question.
Nice.
One of my staff members jumped up super fast and said, oh my gosh, my pick of the day is the anti-tarnish polishing cloth. Which is hysterical because this is a polishing cloth that has been around for 28 years. It is non-abrasive and just picks up all, so it doesn't scratch your flute in any way or any musical instrument. A lot of brass players use these as well. So that was the first pick of the day. It's called the Anti-Tarnish Polishing Cloth. It's on our website. It is really, really lovely polishing cloth. That was the first pick. The next pick of the day that I love is called the Alternate Fingerings for the Flute by Nestor Hirschbaum.
Okay.
It is a fingering book for flute players that has all the alternative fingerings you could possibly think of. So, and it's also, when you have those fingering charts where you have to look across and try to figure out what number 1, number 2, and number 3 are.
Yeah.
So this is not it. This is like picture for dummies kind of thing, like that book, the series, Flute Playing for Dummies or something like that. But it is, so it's all pictures. So it has the picture of the flute. It shows you which fingers to close. And it's not just your basic beginning fingering chart. It is, let me tell you how many pages it is. It's 142 pages of fingerings for the flute and suggestions. And it gives you all your quarter tone fingerings. So if you want to play a lot of the modern music, it has all your tremolos. It's just really includes the C-sharp trill key, which has become super popular on most flutes now. It's really a great fingering book. So that one is a top pick. My next, and these aren't in any specific order at this point, but I have 5 others. So I have the Paul Davies 28-Day Warm-Up Book, which is one of the hottest books around the world. I think he sold like 400 or 500 copies in Japan just recently. It's just that popular. It's translated into Japanese. So it's by Paul Davies. It's called the 28-Day Warm-Up Book. It is, if you do it for the 28 days, your flute playing goes from 0 to 60 in a second and a half. It's really an incredible warm-up book. You should check that one out. Lisa Gardner Santa's Flute Theory Workout Book. I think you're probably familiar with that one, Heidi.
A little bit,
A little bit familiar. It's a great workout book, and it now comes with a digital download because most people don't have CD players anymore. So it used to come with the CD. It now comes with digital, not digital download. It comes with the link whatever that's called, modern technology stuff. So it now comes with the audio download off the internet.
Oh, very cool.
Now, at the beginning, you mentioned Terry Sanchez's books, and her 2 books are phenomenal. They're popular all over the world. Now they've really hit worldwide recognition. So they're really great. One is called The Inspiring Flutist Practice Companion. And the other one is Sound and Scales book, both by Terry Sanchez. And then I have Sonia Giles has the melody book. So she took the Marcel Moïse tone development through interpretation.
Okay.
And she has taken all those melodies, put the piano accompaniment to it so you can perform them and play them. And she has 2 volumes, and it ties in everything that Marcel Moïse was basically trying to teach in his tone development through interpretation book, which is kind of one of our Bibles, right?
Yeah.
One of the things you asked about was what I was looking forward to is also we're sponsoring the Texas Flute Society convention coming up this spring. And one of the competition pieces, which is a new piece out by Carlos Simon called Move It for solo flute or alto flute. It's fabulous. It was actually commissioned by Bryce Smith for the National Flute Convention. And it is a really, really great piece. So if you want a new piece of music that is newly out, Move It by Carlos Simon is out. The other thing is you mentioned the Wind Defender.
Yes.
Which is just such a cool invention. With or without the pandemic involved, it's one of those things that everybody should have in their gig bag, because let's go back to, we're going to be playing outside more and more and more. And as spring comes, hopefully you're playing outside more and more during this pandemic. And then if you ever play a wedding or you're in marching band or you just want to go hiking and you want to play your flute outside, if you put the Wind Defender on your flute, you can play outside in the windiest of wind. And it's incredible. It is one of the neatest, newest gadgets for the flute that I think is so great. That would be one of my picks as well. So those are my top, however many picks I picked on that. That's way awesome picks.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that.
So yeah, support small business. That's my other thing. Support small business, because without supporting small business, we're all going to go away. And small business is 70% plus of the United States. And, we keep getting kind of pushed away and pushed away and pushed away, but support it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Man, I didn't realize how high that percentage is.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a statistic I read just before the pandemic. I mean, if you go drive down the street, right, you look at, your local cleaners, or even you look at some of the places are small business because they're a franchise, and those franchises are individually owned, and that's that person's small business.
Yep.
So there's lots of little places to support.
Definitely. I cannot wait to check out some of those things on the list. Some I am extremely familiar with, but others are new to me, so I can't wait to check them out.
Well, they're all available on our website. Yay!
Yay! And my pick, speaking of websites, is your generous and very sweet, thoughtful Flute 360 code for 10% off of cleaning supplies. So thank you so much for supporting the community in that way.
Absolutely. And we would also like to be able to offer continuous discounts throughout the year that we can throw up and change around and that type of thing as various things come up available based on, prices we get things out. We like to pass on discounts to our customers wherever we can. So we will continue to work with you, Heidi, and offer that to your listeners as well throughout the year.
Oh my goodness, Carolyn, that's amazing. I'm just floored. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Well, thank you. And thank you for this interview and this chat. It's been so fabulous. And just have undivided talk with you has been so great. And I think what you do is lovely and giving to the community. And I wish you all the best of luck with it, because I think it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Carolyn. And the same goes back to you. And thank you for taking out time for me and the listeners. And I cannot wait to talk to you soon.
Well, keep in touch. And whatever I can do for you and your group, just let me know. Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you for listening to the Flute 360 podcast. Please subscribe to the Flute 360 newsletter, by going to HeidiKBegay.com. A pop-up will appear and you can enter in your information for the weekly newsletter. The newsletter includes great incentives, updates, and perks to the subscribers. Go ahead to HeidiKBegay.com and sign up today. Thank you.
Let's talk about Flute.